Welcome to Cosmic Compass, the leading astrocartography and locational astrology podcast with your host, Helena. And in today's episode, I want to talk about Mercury Retrograde, the power of Mercury Retrograde, what we can learn from it, how we can best use it, and talk a little bit about astrocartography and the places in the world that the Mercury Retrograde will be more prominent in our lives. So before we get started, I just want to say hello. How are you? It's been a while actually since I've done a solo episode like this on the podcast. I've been in my chapter of interviews and collaborations, and I don't know if any of you experience this or can relate to this as well, but in my creative journey, and that's what I believe everything that I do on the internet, my YouTube videos, my podcasts, my books, everything that I do, I go through these chapters or these sections where I get really passionate or excited about a certain way of doing things or a certain topic or a certain angle. Like, for instance, I just finished my YouTube series on child free by choice, right? That's a specific angle or a specific topic of, what I'm passionate about talking about. I had a whole 2.5-year journey where I was really passionate about talking about slow living on the internet. And I don't talk about that anymore because I've said everything that needs to be said about the topic. There's nothing to add to the subject anymore, right? Or with astrology, I'm now in my astrology talking about astrocartography chapter. And within this chapter of my life, I'm in my collaborations, interviews little era. And I've been having so much fun meeting people that I've always wanted to meet, having conversations with expanders and people who inspire me, astrologers I've always looked up to, and showcasing their journeys, their stories, how they got to where they are, their astrology businesses with you. Because I've noticed that, over the last 1.5 years, I've noticed that so much of the people that follow me either want to be astrologers or they want to be teachers. They want to be creatives or entrepreneurs or people who are showcasing their gifts, their talents, and their services with the world. And so being able to showcase other people's journeys and how they got to where they are, it's been really heartwarming, fulfilling, and I hope very meaningful for you as well. So I'd love to hear from you, by the way, wherever you're listening to this podcast, on Apple iTunes, Spotify, or the video version on YouTube. I would love to hear, what are you liking about these episodes? What kind of episode do you like the most? Do you like the astrology interview episodes? Do you like it when I talk about something else that's not astrology? I'm just curious. This Mercury retrograde, which leading into our main topic for this episode is about Mercury retrograde. This has been a time of re-looking at all the different ways I've been experimenting over the last 6 months and seeing, what do I want to keep doing? What experiments are not leading to lasting results? And what experiments are also just not giving me a good return on investment of time? As a Scorpio rising, and I feel like any Scorpio placements out there listening, and Capricorn placements too. I would say Capricorn placements and Scorpio placements understand time more than anyone else, because Scorpio is ruled by Mars, and Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Scorpio is so aware of mortality and death and how our time matters, like why it matters so much every single day is so important. And Scorpios understand this more than any other zodiac sign. But Capricorns understand the value of time more than any other zodiac sign. What's the best return on investment with time? What are the things that I'm doing that is actually bringing me results versus where am I just spinning my wheels? And that is something I've been going through over the last several weeks, is a feeling of spinning my wheels and doing a lot of different things and not really getting anywhere in terms of forward movement. That's the Mercury retrograde in my 10th house of career. And that leads me into my first point of Mercury retrograde. Mercury can never be in retrograde, because to be retrograde is to be backwards. Mercury is retrograde. Mercury is backwards from our vantage point, our perspective, our point of view here on Earth, right? So it can't ever be in retrograde, but it is retrograde. And when Mercury is retrograde, Mercury, which represents things like communication, messaging, marketing, selling, commerce, Mercury also rules education and study. Mercury rules a lot of different things, right? I just mentioned commerce, right? This is buying, selling, marketing, right? Messaging, that's all Mercury things. But Mercury also rules our mind, our method of communication. How do we think and process information? Our Mercury placement shows us how we think, how our mind operates, how we process things. And when Mercury is retrograde, there's this sense of a slowdown, like things are slowing down in regards to mercurial themes. Now, the first tip I really have for you is you want to look to what whole sign house do you have Mercury retrograde. For instance, right now, Mercury is retrograde in Leo. For me, in my chart, I'm a Scorpio rising, the 10th sign from Scorpio. Mercury is retrograde in the sign of Leo. This means for me, it's happening in my 10th whole sign house. So this has to deal with rethinking career, rethinking public image, rethinking how I show up for the world and how I am seen. And one of the biggest ways this has come up for me is rethinking, what do I want to be making? How do I want to be known? And I've had a lot more serious perspective and reflection on like, what do I seriously want to be known for with my work? Do I want to talk about world predictions and what's happening in the news in relation to astrocartography, even though that's what's popular, even though everyone wants that from me? Is that something that I actually want to be known for with my time, with my existence on this earth? Is that something I actually want to be known for? Or is it something else? There's also been just a lot of rethinking and refixing the things I'm known for, like my courses and my certification program. Since Mercury went retrograde, I have been editing my certification program, rethinking the pieces to it that are going away and finding solutions to replace those things with, fixing test assessment things, just like a lot of the moving pieces of the certification program, which is my once a year massive deep dive program that runs live. It's my only live relocation astrology course. And a course is very different from a workshop. I feel like a lot of people don't know, like workshops are like a one-time thing, but a course is massive. It has so much content and material over many weeks. And this Mercury retrograde, it's like literally been fixing that and re-looking at it to prepare myself for the launch of the certification, which, by the way, just a little quick mention, my certification program is opening on August 20th. However, it will be the lowest price given to those on the wait list. So if you're on my certification wait list, which is a special private email list, and you have to sign up for it in order to be on that wait list, you'll get the early bird discount, the lowest price it will ever be for anyone. It will be $200 less the week before the launch. And so I say this because in about a week's time, I'm going to be emailing everyone on the wait list with the special price. And then officially it will open up to the public on August 20th at the normal price. But I do want to mention that if you've been thinking about joining the certification program, my live course program with 8 live classes with me, definitely you want to get on that wait list just to save an extra $200 if that's something that you want to do. So I'll include the link in the description and the show notes if you want to get on that wait list. Doors to the public will open August 20th, but it will open the week before for my special private email list. Now, with this retrograde, it has been extremely frustrating. It's been more frustrating for me because right now this year, being 31 years old, being in an 8th house perfection year because I'm 31, this has activated Mercury as my time lord. So because I'm in an 8th house year, this means that my 8th house is activated this year, and I have Gemini in the 8th whole sign house in my chart, which, by the way, little tip, if you're going to use annual perfections as a predictive timing technique, you have to use whole sign houses. This technique does not work with any other house system. So if you're going to use annual perfections, just make sure you're using the whole sign house system, okay? But because I have the 8th house year activated, Gemini is activated, and thus the ruler of Gemini, Mercury, is my time lord. And so this is one of my biggest tips for any of you listening that are thinking like, oh, Venus is going to go retrograde, Mars is going to go retrograde, Saturn's going to go retrograde, whatever planet's going to go retrograde. It is really imperative that you know your time lord, because if you have that planet that's going retrograde as your time lord that year, then that means that retrograde will be more personal and will be more effective and will be more felt to you more than anyone else, because Mercury, that planet that's retrograde, is your time lord, is the most important planet in the whole year for you. And so for me, in this instance, this example, Mercury is my time lord this year, being in a Gemini, 8th whole sign house year, right? 8th house year, Gemini, Mercury is my time lord. So because of that, I have been feeling this Mercury retrograde more than any Mercury retrograde I can remember for the last several years. Every day, and I'd be curious if some of you can relate with me on this, every day there's been either a scheduling problem, a technology glitch, issues with my computer, issues with some sort of form of scheduling or technology. Literally, I had a client session and my computer was plugged into my charger to keep it, charged during the session. And my computer just shut off. My MacBook, my nice Apple new MacBook just shut off in the middle of the call. I was supposed to be on a live stream today on Instagram with someone to talk about astrocartography, and literally it was rescheduled for the second time. And we made plans to do this during the beginning of the Mercury retrograde. We rescheduled it once, the first week of Mercury retrograde, and then she rescheduled it again today. It's like, this is so Mercury retrograde. And when this stuff happens, I don't sweat it. I'm not upset. I don't get annoyed because I prepared myself for all of this. And this is the benefit of Mercury retrograde, benefit of astrology. When you know what's coming, when you know that a transit is about to happen, when you know your time lord, and you see that that planet is about to get into a difficult aspect with a malefic. Let's say Venus is your time lord this year and it's about to oppose Saturn. Like, when you know that's coming, you're not caught off guard. You're not shocked. You're not like, oh, I'm so annoyed. No, it's like, I'm a little bit annoyed, but hey, I was expecting that. That's Mercury retrograde for you. It's Venus retrograde. Why not, whatever the aspect is that's happening in your chart. This is why I love astrology so much. I take full advantage of astrology. I maximize it with my life. And that's what I teach in my membership every single month. At the beginning of the month, we just had this a couple days ago, we do a live Zoom call and I go over day by day the transits and how to use it. And I show them the chart and I show them the wheel and I show them what's happening. How can we take full advantage of the opportunities given to us, these messengers, the planets being these messengers that are informing us and communicating to us this information. It's like little angels in the sky that are here to give us this knowledge. Thank you, Saturn. Thank you, Venus. Thank you, Mercury, for telling me this, right? And we as astrologers are translating this data. It's fantastic. And so I love astrology just for planning my life and getting life in order. Now, with Mercury retrograde, the benefits of Mercury retrograde. There's something really helpful about Mercury retrograde because here's what I think about it. This is the time in the year where I can relook at something, fix an error in the system. Let's say I got a funnel in my business and there's a little issue with an email, like there's a button not working, and that's leading to a decrease of sales because that button in the email is not working. It's not linking properly. Thank goodness for Mercury retrograde, because we take advantage of this time and we go back and we look at it again. Another example of how this Mercury retrograde has come up in my life, I accidentally Hear this, guys. This is a crazy story. I accidentally forwarded a business email to an old childhood friend of mine the other day. A friend of mine I haven't talked to in almost 2 years. We had a falling out, just grew apart. We were friends as children, kids, but as adults, our values are not aligned and we're just very different people. And so our friendship ended. We parted ways as we got into our Saturn returns, the beginning of our Saturn returns. I haven't talked to her or heard from her in years, and I accidentally forwarded her a business email. It was a receipt, and I sent an email. I forwarded it to my teammate in my business, but I accidentally sent it to this girl. And mortified, so embarrassed because I haven't talked to her in 2 years. This is the most Mercury retrograde thing ever. And then that made me think about her and think about the past and our childhoods, and made me think about the years we were in New York and how I've changed so much and how I'm different and how she's different. And it's looking at old videos. I've been looking at old YouTube videos of mine, rewatching them for the first time in a long time. I've been going over the last couple of years, looking at my old reels and saving them so I can repurpose them in my business. We work smarter, not harder in business, not spinning our wheels. I'm not spinning my wheels anymore. It's like this whole Mercury retrograde has made me realize, especially Saturn in the 6th, Saturn transiting my 6th house, making me realize, where am I spinning my wheels? Where am I making things harder for me in business when it can actually be way easier? Way simpler. Mercury retrograde has given me that benefit of looking back and reviewing, where am I missing the mark? Where am I not being more effective with the tools at my disposal? Where am I not being the magician tarot card in my life? Let's maximize the tools on our table here. And Mercury retrograde has made me rethink, reevaluate things, relook at all of this. And being in the 10th house, we know getting more context, more detail is where Mercury is retrograde in our chart, right? Whatever whole sign house it's retrograde in, it's giving us more context. Is it Mercury retrograde in our 2nd house of money? Are we rethinking our finances and how we spend money, how we save, how we budget? Are we redesigning our home, our interior design, our decorations, our throw pillows, right? Our clothes, right? Very 2nd house. Or is this Mercury retrograde happening in the 3rd house for you? Maybe you're having to revisit a conflict or an argument you had with your brother, your sister, a sibling, a cousin. 3rd house represents siblings and cousins in our lives. It also is about childhood schooling and childhood education. Are we rethinking about our childhood education, the things, the memories that happened to us in childhood, in school, growing up? What about car problems? Are there car issues? Mercury retrograde in the 3rd house of transportation and cars, right? Is there an issue with our car payments? Are we having issues with transportation, commuting to work, right? That's Mercury in the 3rd, Mercury retrograde in the 3rd, right? So use wherever Mercury is retrograde that time for you, correspond it with your whole sign chart. It's going to give you more information. But for me, it's been 10th house, career, public image. How do I want to be seen? How do I want to be known, right? I'm known for my certification program, so I got to revisit that and relook at that. Same with my content. What kind of content do I want to be making? But also it's more public. It's less doing it for fun, which is more 5th house. We talked about the 5th house transit in episode 27 of this podcast, Astrology is Perfect, How My Planetary Transits Manifested, as examples for you. 5th house is really different from the 10th. 5th house is about how you create for fun, your self-expression, how you make things for pleasure, hobbies, right? It's content creation. It's making reels on Instagram. That's TikToks, right? It's very 5th house. 10th house, though, is more about your achievements, the bigger things that you're known for, like a course, a book, your reputation, legacy. How are you seen before others? Rebranding your colors, your style with that, right? So very different 10th versus 5th house in astrology. This has been such a powerful, clarifying, and reflective time for me. Has it been frustrating? Yeah, of course, Mercury retrograde is annoying and frustrating, especially if it's your time lord that year, because you're going to be feeling it more than anyone else when Mercury's your time lord and it's Mercury retrograde, right? But there has been so many downloads, clarity. I've had questions in my business on how I want to do things going forward for over the last year. Like I would say ever since the new year started, I have been confused about certain aspects of my business and what do I need to devote more time and attention to versus others. And this Mercury retrograde really slowed me down to make me relook at all this and get that clarity, find that clarity. I am leaving this Mercury retrograde with so much certainty, clarity of what I'm going to be doing going forward. And I'm so excited. And one of the things is going to be a lot less YouTube. And I've been saying this for over a year now that I need to stop doing YouTube and focus on the podcast and Instagram. But I think, and anyone with any Pluto aspects will understand this, and this is me getting vulnerable with you right now, but anyone who has any hard Pluto aspects, Pluto squares, right? Especially if it's a personal planet, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, or even your ascendant. If you have any hard aspects from Pluto in your birth chart, you will experience this theme in your life of finding it difficult to let go, finding it difficult to surrender with something, finding it difficult to release and move on. And as someone who's also triple fixed, right? I'm a Taurus sun, Leo moon, Scorpio rising. I'm stubborn. I don't quit. I don't give up. I'm so stubborn. When I set my mind to something, I finish it. I do what I say I'm going to do. The problem is when you are triple fixed, it's hard to be more flexible and to adapt quickly. And when I also, because my sun is exactly opposite Pluto, there's a lifelong story and lesson about let go, release control. And for me, this Mercury retrograde has been particularly illuminating. Now, I also want to mention a little tip, astrology lesson for you. When we have a cazimi, which is when Mercury and the sun are meeting up, Mercury, the planet of communication, meeting up with the sun, kind of burning up, firing up, right? This cazimi, when the sun, transiting sun meets up with Mercury. This cazimi is what it's called. And when we have a cazimi, it is really illuminating. It gives us, during that day or two when that's happening, when the sun meets up with Mercury, we get clarity, we get insight, we get a download. And let me tell you, this recent Mercury Sun cazimi we just had a couple days ago, it was powerful. Even more so because Mercury was my Time Lord. So again, going back to the big picture, which is look at your Time Lords, right? Cazimi and your Mercury or the Sun is your perfected, Time Lord for the year. Even more so, a cazimi is going to be even more important for you in terms of getting that download and information. I got so much clarity that evening. I got the download of I need to hold a ceremony, a letting go ceremony for my YouTube channels. I need to hold space and celebrate my YouTube channels, light some candles, light some incense, some sage, and hold a ceremony for it and say goodbye. And I know for some of you that might seem really dramatic, but when something's been in your life for so long and it's so hard for you to let go, I think one of the best ways that you can fully accept your fate and let go of something is to hold a ceremony for it. To thank it for being part of your journey when it was, because you needed that for some reason, whether that was a person or a project or a topic. Maybe you were into astrology for a part of your life and you're letting go of astrology, or maybe you were really into a certain topic, or maybe you majored in a topic in school and you're ready to let that go, a career go or something, right? I think it's really important to give ourselves space, to give ourselves time to process that letting go, to process that moving on. And sometimes it doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes it takes time. For me, I've been constantly on YouTube since, well, I'd say 2017, but for 3 years I was posting and I didn't hit 100 subscribers until 2020. So it was a 3-year project with that, but then I closed and deleted all those videos so no one can really find them. But since 2017, I have been posting YouTube videos of my life. And I'm feeling like it's time to let it go. Like the results aren't there. My views have dropped. And I know some of you guys that are watching this YouTube version on YouTube, you will say, I've been here since the beginning, all of that. And I love you and I'm so grateful. But the truth of the matter is, if I'm going to be really real with myself, and if I really want to make the impact that I want to make in my life during these next 3 years, which are big transits for me, I need to let it go because I'm not getting the results that Instagram is giving me. I'm not getting the results that the podcast is giving me. I'm not getting the results that my email is giving me, right? Like there's so many other things I do that is giving me way more results for my time. And I need to be smart about this because I'm aware of time and mortality and death. And we don't know how much time we have. And I need to be more aware of that. And I say all this because sometimes you have to make a hard decision in your business that is emotional for you, especially if you've been doing it a long time. But I also know that letting go of something is one of the best ways to get you to where you're meant to be. Because when you let something go, when you cut something out of your life, you have a lot more space and time to devote to those other things, to speed up and increase those other things. And I'm realizing during this Mercury retrograde that I'm done spinning my wheels. I'm done working so hard. I'm going to work smarter with my time that I have every day, the hours I am given every day. And so for me, one of the pieces of clarity that I got during this Mercury Cazimi just the other day was it's time to close YouTube. So the benefits of Mercury retrograde: cleaning your desktop, cleaning all of the videos and photos on your phone and organizing them into albums, organizing your email list, organizing and clearing out your website, organizing your Google Drive folders. A couple of Mercury retrogrades ago, last fall, I did the Mercury Retrograde Challenge, which is actually a whole course that you can get if you want to get that course. It's really fun. And it has a bunch of videos on how to use Mercury retrograde well to organize your life. But during that Mercury retrograde, it was so efficient in a different way. Like this Mercury retrograde for me now has been so clarifying and given me so much clarity. But the last Mercury retrograde, it was helping me organize my life in terms of my habits, my systems in my business, my phone, my desktop, my hard drives, my Google Drive. It was so productive in terms of clearing out all the systems of my life and business. It's fascinating how a Mercury retrograde can manifest in different ways. Fascinating. And you can use Mercury retrograde to your advantage. It doesn't have to be this, oh, everything's going wrong, or, oh, I can't do anything during Mercury retrograde. No. Use Mercury retrograde. Use it well. Use it wisely. Look back and review and edit and fine-tune things wherever you need that refreshing energy in, right? So, I'm always proactively using Mercury retrograde, always in my life. Am I also aware of the potential hiccups that can come up? Yes. Am I ever starting something brand new when Mercury was retrograde? No. I literally went to a car dealer today and looked at cars. And I found my dream car within a minute. I walked in, I was like, that's the car. I just knew. And my husband was like, you are crazy. I'm very decisive. I'm extremely decisive. I know exactly what I want. And I know right away. I don't have to deliberate over things. I don't make pro-con lists. I just know. That's just my personality. I'm very, very quick to making decisions. It makes me an effective leader and also a little bit impulsive. But I saw my dream car today and I was like, damn, I would get this today if it wasn't Mercury retrograde. I would never start something new when Mercury's retrograde. I would never pick an electional chart to start a business or launch a or actually, I scratched that. I did start this podcast when Mercury was retrograde. And look how that turned out. Season 1 of this podcast was so inconsistent. I would go months without posting an episode. I think the Mercury retrograde chart that I picked, the electional chart that I picked when I first launched this podcast for season 1 was Mercury retrograde, and I made a whole episode about it. I didn't let it stop me because I knew I needed to do it with that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. But that season 1 was so inconsistent. And because of that, it affected the views, it affected the listens, the downloads, all of that. I would go in and out. I would get excited about the podcast and then my attention would wane, right? But then when I relaunched the podcast for season 2 with a new cover, got the trademark for my name, Cosmic Compass, trademarked it legally, all of this new things with the podcast for season 2, I did it when Mercury was direct, and I've been so much more consistent with this podcast. Every week a video goes out or a podcast goes out. I've been way more proactive and excited and efficient with this podcast than I was in season 1. And I really believe it's because of Mercury Retrograde, the chart that I picked for launching this podcast for season 2. It's like I restarted it, I rebooted it. And you can do that at any time. I think a lot of people worry that if they pick a chart for their business, they can't redo it. You can. Just do a relaunch, do a rebrand, do a 2.0 version of that thing. That's what I'm working on. I'm working on some 2.0 projects with the certification program right now. And it's been a lot of fixing things, and then I'll relaunch when Mercury's direct. So I don't want you to be afraid of Mercury retrograde. There's nothing to fear, but it's would I use Mercury retrograde to start something new? No. Would I buy a car during Mercury retrograde? No. Would I buy anything technical like a laptop, a camera, a phone, a mic, headphones, right? Would I buy something technology-wise that's new during Mercury retrograde? No, I would not. I would wait till Mercury stations direct. I also want to mention, let's go a little bit into the astrocartography piece of this. With astrocartography, I think a lot of people assume that you should not go to a Mercury line when Mercury is retrograde. That's the simplified, easy version of seeing things. But let's go a little bit deeper. As we're constantly improving and learning and growing in our astrology skills, let's go a little bit deeper than that. What I would say instead of don't go to a Mercury line when Mercury is retrograde is instead I would say, don't go to that planetary line when Mercury is retrograde and hitting it. This is a timing technique called cyclocartography, or just using timing such as transits. But as an example, let's say I have the moon in Leo and Mercury is retrograde in Leo and it's going over my moon. I would not be traveling to a planetary line when Mercury is retrograde in that sign. Let's say Mercury is retrograde in Aquarius and you have your Venus in Aquarius. I would probably not want to go to a Venus line for my vacation or to go on a business trip when Mercury is retrograde in Aquarius, because I know in my head I've got Venus in Aquarius. So if I go to a Venus line, then that Mercury retrograde is going to be affecting that location in the world most for me more than any other place. I might have more delays, more traffic issues, more tech glitches. Maybe I'm meeting up with people from the past. Hey, maybe that's a good thing. It doesn't have to be all bad. Mercury retrograde's not bad. But there is going to be more of a slowdown with themes happening in those parts of the world where we have Mercury retrograde at that time. And this is why using a software like SolarFire can be really helpful, because you can use the animate chart feature on the cyclocartography feature. And you can also use transits individually. You can use the cyclocartography, which is the mix of progressions and transits. And you can also just use transits and see, where is Mercury retrograde in the world? If you ever did want to get SolarFire, by the way, use my code WOODS15 and you'll get 15% off. I love SolarFire. I use that software for my client readings when I'm doing astrocartography work, and I love it, but it is for PC users. If you're an Apple user and you use a Mac, like a MacBook or a Mac desktop computer, then I would recommend for you Astro Gold, which I love Astro Gold as well. I also use that as well. I see the benefits of both software. So I personally, as a professional astrologer, I like to have both, to each their own. You can see where Mercury is retrograde on the map, right? And you can also get this information by simply pulling up a bi-wheel, pulling up your chart in the middle, And then on the bi-wheel, the outer wheel, you pull up the transits. When you notice that Mercury is retrograde and you have a planet in that sign and Mercury's retrograde going over that planet by degree, I would be maybe not wanting to go to that location during that time, or maybe not actively planning for that trip during that time. No, it's not as simple as don't go to a Mercury line when you have Mercury retrograde. It's more so the timing of, let's make it personal to us. Where do I have Mercury retrograde in my chart? Do I have any planets there? And you can even take this to the next level, which is when you have planets that are squaring that placement. And I go way more in depth on this in my certification program. Squares and oppositions, hard aspects. So if you have any planets that are being squared or opposing that Mercury retrograde as well, those places can also be difficult where you have those planetary lines. We do a lot of examples and have so many incredible pre-recorded modules on this. And we're going to be doing this live, teaching this live in the certification program on how to time your travels, how to go deeper into transit work with timing your trips, and also timing your moves and trips to those planetary lines, because there's way more to it. It's not just Mercury retrograde themes too. It's also noting what planetary transits or progressions are aspecting those planetary lines that we have in our chart. It's fascinating. And you can see it both on the chart and on the map. A lot of people, they think they have to look at the map, but you can also do this just with a bi-wheel. Transits and progressions to a chart using whatever software that you use. So there are definitely ways that you can see this. Thinking more from a broader context, the symbolism of this Mercury retrograde, which I hope can kind of provide a cool teaching moment for you in whatever part of your journey that you're in with astrology. Mercury's been retrograde in Leo, and there's been so much celebrity scandals or miscommunication, things being misconstrued in messaging or marketing, and also just delays in travel with celebrities. I'll give you an example. When Mercury stationed retrograde and at the beginning of the transit, I was on a cruise at the time. I timed this well. I wanted to be on that cruise when Mercury was retrograde. And I noticed that on our cruise, we had three separate performer acts. They didn't make the boat. They couldn't get to the boat on time. Their suitcases, their luggage for the performance didn't make the boat. And so because of that, there were three performance acts in the main stage theater of my cruise that I was on, all canceled because they didn't make the boat on time. Or their luggage was delayed and it didn't make the boat on time, so they couldn't perform. And I remember thinking when I was on this cruise, this is the most Mercury retrograde theme in Leo, which represents performers, the stage, celebrities, right? That's Leo. This is the most Mercury retrograde in Leo things I've ever seen. Is like literally when Mercury stations retrograde, this happens. 3 acts. I've never been on a cruise and seen something like that happen before. So when Mercury is retrograde, think about the broader text of what does Mercury retrograde in that zodiac sign mean as a collective whole? What's happening in the news? What's happening in life? And again, astrology is a mirror. That's what's so fascinating. It's a mirror. It's simply showing you that which is happening. It's not causing those people to not make the boat. Mercury retrograde isn't causing this celebrity scandal to happen or causing a technological glitch on the computer. It's just showing that, hey, this is happening right now. This is happening right now. And you can plan your life to maximize and maybe even avoid certain problems when Mercury is retrograde. For instance, if you're a public figure, if you're a content creator, if you're someone who puts themselves on the internet and you have an audience, do not launch things or say things that you might regret when Mercury is retrograde in your 10th or 11th house. When Mercury is retrograding the 10th house or the 11th house in your chart, be careful with what you say. Don't take any risks with saying something that might be easily misconstrued. If you are someone who is making content on the internet, you're an astrologer, you're a spiritual teacher, you're an author, you're a YouTuber, whatever it is you do, just be very mindful of things you say on the internet when Mercury is retrograde in your 10th, 11th, and even if you have your MC, if you have your MC in the 9th house, that as well. Wherever your MC is will be very important because the MC represents your public image and your reputation and how people see you. So a couple little tips. I feel like I gave you guys a lot of little tips for this Mercury retrograde. It's been an interesting one, a great one. Has it been frustrating? Yes. But there's so much benefit to Mercury retrograde. So much clarity, so much illumination, so much, especially with that Kazemi, but so much re-looking at things. The decisions you make during a Mercury retrograde can really help support you in the years to come. They can provide moments of awakening, of realizations. They can be the start of a pivot. They can be the start of a new beginning, a decision that you make that can affect the rest of your life. The unfolding of the rest of your life can happen with a Mercury retrograde because of a Mercury retrograde. Let's use them instead of fearing them. There is opportunity all around us. There is opportunity everywhere. When you walk outside your door every day, you never know the blessings, the lessons, the insights, the gifts, the opportunities that life can give you that day, will give you that day. If only you notice them, if only you stay open-minded and curious and look for them. Look for blessings, you'll find them. When you look for opportunities, you'll find them. When you look for a catalyst for change, you'll find it. It's all there. It's all waiting for you. But are you going to notice it or are you going to ignore it? And I think this is a crucial moment right now this week. With this Mars South Node conjunction in Virgo, as we're stepping into Mars in Libra and this retrograde station, this is a moment that we're all going to remember in terms of where is there something that needs to change? And this is the moment where it locks into place. That's it. So I hope that this Mercury retrograde has given you clarity. And I also hope that you learned a lot from this episode on timing your travels with astrocartography, and also some examples of how to look into Mercury retrograde even in a deeper way. Not just by noticing what whole sign house you have Mercury retrograde, but the sign that it's in. How is that zodiac sign coloring and flavoring this Mercury retrograde? Do we have any personal planets in that sign or that are angular to that sign, squares and oppositions? This information is really telling. And especially when we travel to certain planetary lines, when Mercury is retrograde over those planetary lines. Very key. Don't be afraid of Mercury retrograde. Use it. You can find the Mercury retrograde master down below, my mini course. It's really fun. I'll help you get organized and use your Mercury retrograde really well. I hope you enjoy it and you have lifetime access, which is really fun. And I hope that you enjoyed this podcast episode wherever you're listening. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here. And I'll see you in the next episode here on Cosmic Compass.